What is going on, guys? Today I'm going to be giving you a review for Jurassic World Dominion, and this is going to be kind of a spoiler-free review. There really isn't many things to spoil in this movie, to be completely honest, but obviously there's some things that, are specific about the plot that I just won't mention in order to make this a video that anyone can watch in order to know if they maybe want to see the movie or not. But obviously my opinion should not be the only reason you decide to go see the movie or not, but some people like to have a couple of opinions online, and I don't know if mine is any worth to anyone, but if it is, this video could help with that. Or if you've already seen the movie and you're just interested to see what I have to say about it, of course we're going to be going over the positives, the negatives, and then I'm going to give it a rating out of 10 at the end of the video. Jurassic World Dominion was actually one of my most anticipated movies of 2022. It was in my top 5, and 2 of the movies in my top 5 were actually delayed to 2023, so in actuality, Jurassic World Dominion, out of the movies that were revealed to us before 2022 even started, this was my 3rd most anticipated movie of 2022 that was announced again before the year started. So I had a lot of hype for this, and I'm not like some really intense fan of Jurassic Park either. I'm kind of more of a casual fan. I watched all the movies for the first time just a couple years ago. I think it was about 2 years ago on this channel, by the way. So if you want to see my reactions to all 5 of the movies, those are really old videos on this channel. Probably some of my first videos I've ever uploaded on this channel, actually. And I really enjoyed them, but I wasn't like a mega fan after it. I wasn't this person who, really dug into the lore of Jurassic Park and got really interested in everything. Like, it was just something I really enjoyed the movies for and went on with my life. And I didn't really think about it all that much until the trailers for this started coming out. And then I was getting kind of excited because I really loved the Jurassic Park franchise. Only like 1 or 2 of the movies I didn't really love, but especially Jurassic Park, the original, and Jurassic World, it's within my top 100 movies of all time. So definitely proves that I really love those 2 movies. And what also got me excited is that the director that directed Jurassic World was returning for Jurassic World Dominion. There was a different director for Fallen Kingdom, which Fallen Kingdom I didn't like very much. So I was, happy to see that the original director from Jurassic World was returning for Dominion. So that also got me really excited. But then when I actually got a chance to see the movie, I'll be honest, kind of disappointing. Let's just get into the positives first, though, because of course there are tons of great things about this movie. Just because it's disappointing does not mean it's a bad movie at all. First of all, the concept is amazing. Obviously, having a good concept doesn't mean that much if the execution isn't very good, but you still need a good concept to begin with, and this concept is incredible. I was really excited for this movie mainly because of that concept, obviously, because I really like, of course, the past 5 movies, but all of them kind of felt samey in some ways. Like, they were all, for the most part, on an island, except for, a couple scenes towards the end of like the second one and Fallen Kingdom. But a lot of it was just on one of the islands, and yes, it does get a little bit, you get kind of bored of those similar locations. But the idea of the dinosaurs being let out into other countries and all around the world was just such an interesting idea to me, and I was so excited to see them showcase it. And the trailers and teasers did a great job of hyping it up, but as we'll talk about in the negatives, I don't really think the execution was that great. They did a good job showing how dinosaurs could affect the planet in terms of like the food supply and such, how the different locust things were like eating a bunch of the food and the crops and stuff. I like that, but they didn't go far enough for it, and again, we'll go into that in the negatives because there's a lot of problems I have with them not doing nearly as much as they should have with that concept. But just the very idea of that concept itself is still interesting enough for me to call it a positive about the movie. The cast was great. I was really excited to see the OG characters return, and honestly, it was just nice to see them. Like, that's the main thing about it. I'm glad they were there in the first place, but I do have some negatives to say about them, which again, we will talk about in the negatives, but there are some things about them I wasn't too crazy about, mainly the OGs. But the returning ones from Jurassic World, of course, Owen and Claire, almost forgot her name, and Macy, they were fine. I enjoyed them. I thought they were not as enjoyable as they were in Jurassic World just because they didn't get as much screen time, obviously, but I think they were pretty good. Actually, I think Claire might have been the best she's ever been in this one, actually. I just liked her kind of motherly attitude, I guess, towards Macy in this movie, which almost kind of was good development for her character, because she was kind of thrown into that motherly like position in Jurassic World when it wasn't her kids, and I really like that whole storyline they did with her in Jurassic World. And now she kind of is a mother, and I kind of enjoy those moments with her there. But Owen, honestly, I don't know, I think I liked him more in the other two movies, but he was still fine here. Obviously Chris Pratt is still fun as Chris Pratt, so that was nice. And for the new characters, Kayla especially, Kayla was the new character who helped them with the plane, who helped Owen and Claire with the plane, and she was honestly a lot more fun than a lot of the other characters were in this movie, which was surprising because it's a new character and I wasn't expecting a new character to be, you know, almost as enjoyable or even more so enjoyable than the other characters, but she was. So I think she was a good addition to the movie. The CGI, cinematography, the shots, that was all really good. Like, there was a lot of solid shots in this film, especially toward the end. The third act just went crazy with it, and I thought it looked amazing. The first two acts, not as much, but the third act especially. Another thing is that the movie has really damn good action, especially towards the pretty much last half of the movie. I'd say the third act is where the action is actually really good, has a lot of good tension to it, and some genuinely well done and well executed scenes. First half, not as much, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, I think it's a good, fun dinosaur movie for the most part, but not everything is amazing. The problems I have with this movie mainly come from the overarching plot, the overarching story. It's very stuffed, and not in a good way. Sometimes I think overstuffed films are fine. Like, I don't see an issue with it. I'm not always against having a lot of different plot lines and a lot of different storylines, because sometimes it works. Sometimes they're able to juggle it all and they're able to just mesh together and make it work. Infinity War is a great example. Infinity War has so much stuff going on in it, but they make it work. This movie has a lot of different stuff that just doesn't really work well together, and then they don't really get much individual focus, so none of these storylines are fleshed out in a way that's all that compelling. And this can even go further than just the stories. You can even talk about the individual character stories. There's a lot of different character stories in here that don't feel developed at all. There's some stuff I guess could be considered a spoiler between Alan and Ellie in this movie that just doesn't really work for me. Like, towards the end of the movie, they kind of have this resolution, and I just did not work for me at all, because they weren't focused in on the movie. They weren't focused in the movie enough for me to really care and to really see some sort of a payoff between these characters. Ian was probably the one I was most disappointed in, even though I was, again, so thrilled to see them there. It was just nice to see them in the first place. But, I mean, I love Jeff Goldblum. He's amazing. He was barely in the movie. He had a couple of really good moments. There was one in particular in the third act that I loved, but that was really it. And I know that's because there's so many other characters in this movie. This is a very stuffed movie, and the movie is kind of long. It's about 2.5 hours, and it definitely feels that long for sure, but I don't know if it really had to be. I think there was a way to definitely cut out a lot of the fluff. I don't think you should cut out anything with the main cast, but there's a lot of side stories. Specifically, I think the most obnoxious one is pretty much anything with the main villain. His name is, I think, Lewis Dogston. He's not even memorable enough to remember his name, to be honest, but he's not an interesting villain. He's not. This whole franchise, honestly, has not really had too many villains that I find to be that interesting. Human villains, that is. You know, obviously their dinosaur villains are always amazing to look at. They're always really cool. But I've never really found much interest in a lot of the... Because the problem with them is that they all have very similar motivations, and they all have very similar attitudes towards things. They're very similar. It's very rare we'll get a very complex, you know, three-dimensional, unique villain in a franchise like this. They all feel the exact same, and this guy is no different. So any scene with him, I just did not care. I did not care at all. And they focus a lot on him, to be honest. He's not only in it for a little bit, he's in a decent chunk of the movie. I really think this franchise could find ways to make interesting villains that actually have compelling stories to them, but I don't know, this one especially, don't think they really were able to do that at all. And like I was saying before, I'm again very pleased with the concept of this movie, and I think there's some things they do with it that's really awesome, but they don't do enough with the concept. Not at all. The fact that dinosaurs are roaming around the country, the entire world pretty much, that is going to cause massive problems. Massive problems. Like, yes, some of the dinosaurs are kind of peaceful, sure. A lot of them are not peaceful. A lot of them are vicious and will just kill anybody they come across. And the fact that we didn't get to see much of that just doesn't sit well with me. Like, I feel like that's what this movie should have been dealing with more so, is there's dinosaurs all over the world. Let's try to do something about it, try to fix it. But instead, it's focused on this one little company that's this company is trying to do something about it. And they are essentially trying to herd or take all of the dinosaurs that are around and put them into this facility that kind of keeps them there. And it's, they're doing other shady stuff there, obviously, that's, not really stuff that everyone's aware of. And a lot of the movie is about that mystery of what they're doing, and kind of like almost like it's a spy movie in some aspects, to be honest, in terms of how some of the characters deal with it. I mean, you have a whole scene of Alan Grant and Ellie kind of sneaking through this facility and like this little like this hazmat suit type thing, and there's a lot of stuff like that in this movie. And there's even a lot of human to human conflicts going on, where there's like full-on action scenes between humans, and none of that just feels like it fits in a Jurassic Park movie. I just never felt like this was something I needed from a Jurassic Park movie, and I feel like they should have been spending more of that time dealing with this amazing concept they have here. We should have had full-on scenes in like New York City. There should have been a dinosaur that got to New York. I mean, I know they did that in Jurassic. Well, no, it was in San Diego, right? In Jurassic Park 2. I'm honestly forgetting where that was set, but it was set in a city. And I don't care. I would love to see more of that. We had like one shot of New York City in this movie, I think, and it was cool to see, but I want to see them a lot more of that. A lot more stuff going on around the entire world. Even if it was just like a montage of something like that, that would have been fine, but I feel like the main plot still should have been centered around that, as opposed to this side story with this company that's trying to do more evil, malicious things with these dinosaurs and with the genetics that they always tend to do. And they have this storyline with the clone character of Macy, and I thought her character was fine. Like, I enjoyed her character in this, but again, it's a lot of that stuff, that same stuff that we usually see, where they're just trying to utilize her for these scientific gains that are, some characters are using it in a negative way while other characters are using it in more of a positive way. And again, it's just something we've seen a million times, I feel like, and that's kind of why I wasn't like crazy about it. I wasn't as interested in it as I wish I kind of was. And the last negative I can think of is that there honestly isn't much tension in this movie. And I know it's more of a family-friendly, fun movie. It's not meant to have like really scary things where like people are about to die. But I mean, if you go back to the original Jurassic Park, they did have a lot of moments like that. I mean, come on, there was a ton of moments where you were like on the edge of your seat. Even though you probably thought these kids would make it out alive, it was still like, damn, this is pretty intense. Even Jurassic World has a lot of stuff like that. I mean, even like the dinosaur action sequence and stuff, they're really damn good in those movies. This one just doesn't have much of that. There isn't enough scenes that I feel like are very tension building, except for one scene where I legitimately thought a couple of our main characters were gonna die. But there really isn't much, especially like the first half of the movie, where I felt like there was any tension to anything. I always was like, oh, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. Nothing's gonna go wrong with them. And that's obviously not a good thing. But I don't know what they could have done to make it more intense, but I don't know. I don't think they did a great job with that for a good chunk of the movie. So to give this movie a rating out of 10, like I said, it was disappointing for sure, but that doesn't mean it's a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. This is a solid movie. Solid, using that term very loosely. I'm gonna give it a 6.8 out of 10. So 6.8 out of 10, round it up to a 7 if you want. That's fine. Like, that's enjoyable watch. It's something I would rewatch, and it's not something that I feel like I wasted my time watching. So that's that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'm going to be doing a ranking of all the Jurassic Park movies probably within the next couple days, so definitely check out for that video. I will see you all in my next one. Peace out.